Hey guys, it's me, Lucy. I'm going to be doing a summary of Faithful by Kelly Elliott. I just did one for Cherish, this is the summary for this one. So we will put, if you want the Kindle or the audiobook link, it will not be in description because I'll put it on the actual video and I do the actual review. This is so I can just give you the summary without actually telling you and spoiling you with what actually happens in the book. So this is the third one. This is the love story of Heather and Josh, who were the background story of the main couple in Saved. They're a lot like Jeff and Ari actually, because they have this love-hate relationship. But this is when things have actually got really good for them and they're like actually together and solve their problems. Just give you a bit background story really. Josh is like a man whore, and he meets Heather and Heather's aversion. She lost her mum and dad. They died in the car crash, and he ends up instantly liking her. Obviously, and she likes him even though he's a bit of a man whore. Just gonna move myself a bit closer. Here we go. And yeah, so you get to know them a bit in this book, and he does pretend he loves her in the Saved book, and she ends up like pushing him away, and she tells him that she does love him but she can't do this because she's actually never proper grieved her parents. She's never like cried about it and like been in depression and anger and grieved all the 5 stages of grief basically, and she starts to. And there's this stupid girl, the bitch in this story is Linda. She's, well, in when they first meet in the actual book for this one, it's actually a girl called Victoria. I actually thought it was going to be Linda because she was, you know, not many people have more than one bitch that is going to fight this relationship in these books, but Linda was the one at the start, and she had a big thing for Josh, and she always kept getting all over him. Everyone didn't like her, but Josh gave in to what she wanted in Saved. Even though the main couple was Jeff and Ari, there was quite a lot for Heather and Josh. He gave in to dating Linda. I hate him when he did that, because he does tell her, let Heather that he loves her, and she tells him, but she says she can't do it, and she ends up leaving. And there's other stuff before this where they like they try and tell each other that they feel, and they do something by mistake, not really thinking about it, and then, well, she wants to apologise and tell him that she has feelings for him, but then he's mad at her and like, well, we're just friends, aren't we, Heather? And she's like, yeah, I guess so, and she isn't going to say because she's upset, and she runs away. Then Jeff and Ari, like, she also says sorry and tells you that she has feelings for you, idiot, and you just ruined it, and he's like, oh, I didn't know. So those kind of things in the background, same as what like Ari and Jeff had when they were like getting close to being together, and then they automatically kind of pull away because they don't want to get hurt. So there was quite a lot of that, but she ends up leaving, and he ends up thinking fuck this, because Josh is a manhole, but he's gone without sex for like months because he cares about Heather and he wants to wait till he can be with her. And she did come all over him one night, and she was like saying that she wanted him but he didn't want her. I think she got the wrong impression and thought that he wasn't attracted to her, and he didn't want her, but it was actually that I think he wanted to make it special, and like Gunter did for Ellie and Jeff did for Ari. I think he wanted to like make it romantic and special for her first time when she loses her virginity, but she ends up taking it as in he doesn't really like her that way at all. So she ends up leaving, and he doesn't go after her. She tells him to leave her alone. She ends up going home. This is after something bad happened something horrible happened to Jeff and Ari. If you read the story you know what I'm on about, I'll be talking about this in the spoiler video anyway. And she ends up, what's his name? Josh ends up giving in to Linda and saying that he'll drive her home, and he invites her to go back to his place to basically do the deed, to have sex, and she sends him a picture of her in her underwear. He ends up phoning Heather, and she ends up saying she's on a date. At the time I thought she was just making this up so that he would leave her alone, and he's like, oh okay, right, you're on the date then, and he tells her that he's with Linda or whatever, and she's like, oh okay. But then Heather wants Josh to know that she does actually want to be with him, so she kind of like gives in and tries to call him. He doesn't answer, but Linda does, and she says that they're good, and she says that Josh is in the shower, and don't worry, we're gonna have a lot of fun, if you know what I mean, basically saying she's gonna have sex with Josh. And Heather gets really upset, so she's like, oh yeah, I ran the wrong person. A cover story, obviously not real. So she hangs up and gets really wasted with Jerry. Some people might blame Heather for what happens, but I think it wasn't as it seems, because she doesn't actually remember it. I'll tell you what I mean in a minute. But her and Jerry get really, or Jer for short, they get really wasted, and she wakes up naked in bed with blood on the sheets, obviously because she lost her virginity, she ended up having sex with him, and she doesn't remember it. And she feels sick to her stomach, so she pukes. And then the doorbell rings quite soon after that, and you're probably knowing where this is heading. Josh answers the door, and he basically tells her that he doesn't want to be with Linda, he wants to be with her, he loves her, he's going to prove that he can be faithful to her, that he doesn't want to be a man whore of random girls anymore. And then he walks into the house and sees Jerry in his underwear, and it all clicks in his head into place, and he's like, you lost your virginity to him. He's like, did you even know she was a virgin? And Jerry's like, no, if I had known I wouldn't have. And he's like, wow, you wanted to push me away, Heather, you really have. And he says some really hurtful words and ends up leaving, and she's like crying, begging him to stay, and she says, I wish it was you, I wish it could have been you, I didn't mean for this to happen. And then we find out, well, soon later, that Josh ends up dating Linda, even though he doesn't give a shit about her. And people actually, even the guys like Gunter and Jeff, actually ask him, why are you with her if you don't love her? He's like, well, you know, I don't want to fall in love because I don't want my heart to get broken, and she's not bad to look at and she's not bad in bed, but she is really needy, and she keeps pushing him to like ask her to marry her and stuff. It's really annoying. And Heather, I think this is what I mean about Jerry though. I know why Josh would get really upset, but I think of it looks more like kind of like rape. I mean, maybe it wasn't, but there wasn't a scene where we got to see the sex scene, so it's a bit weird that maybe she doesn't remember it, so maybe Jerry kind of, because he's actually a complete asshole that you find out soon. Anyway, he's really horrible. We found out that he's been cheating on her behind her back, and then she never had sex with him again. And they basically break up, and Josh still dating Linda. But I think it just looks a bit more. I think it's more like Jerry had a plan, like he didn't know she was a virgin, I believe that, but I think maybe he was like hoping that he could try and get her pissed, like say let's have a few drinks, and actually in his head he's like, I'm gonna get her really, really drunk and take her home and have sex with her and fuck her, because he doesn't know that she's actually like a real innocent, down to earth, and like I think, you know, Heather's actually a person that would not have sex with someone if she knew what she was doing, unless she was in love with them, obviously. But because she was so wasted, she didn't know what happened, she doesn't remember it. So how do we know that? Because I think Josh probably thinks of it as like she was so upset, it's like, yeah, fuck me now and just get it over with. But I think it was that Jerry kind of pushed her into it, and she just doesn't remember it, so she can't say, oh, I was assaulted or anything. But I'm not saying that's what happened, but I think that's what I'm kind of looking at it as, like, because I don't think she didn't want to do it, so she might have, because she doesn't remember it, she might actually have told him to stop and he just didn't. Yeah, so I think it's more like that. And we find out Linda's just a complete bitch. She ends up telling Heather when her and Josh were like communicating again, when they're actually like getting close, even though Heather's, we find out that Heather tells everyone that she doesn't want to drink alcohol again, and Josh realises it's because of what happened with Jerry last time. But she ends up getting back into drinking again when Linda is in the bathroom, and she tells her that Josh basically proposed to her, but they haven't made it official yet, and he just hasn't given her a ring. So Heather gets really upset and ends up leaving, and Josh doesn't know why. And she tells her girlfriends, and then Josh finds out that Heather's been drinking and partying a lot on the weekends, and he knows that Heather's been pulling away from him, and he's still dating Linda. Linda goes away with her family for a holiday for like 2 weeks or something, so Josh is actually staying at Jeff and Ari's house, and Heather's staying there. But things aren't the same between Josh and Heather, and Jeff ends up going to ask, going in stables where Josh is, and Heather's already gone on the horse, and she's gone like across the river in the, you know, to chill out in the not stables, in the field, whatever you want to call it. And Jeff actually ends up saying to Josh, do you care about Linda? And he's like, no. He said, do you love Heather? And he said, yes, I do. And he says that it drives him crazy and he loves her and he wants to be with her, but you know. And then Jeff ends up telling him, I know why she's been pulling away from you, it's because Linda told Heather that you're opposed to her but you haven't made it official yet. And then of course Josh is like, I never said that, she's lying. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do, Josh? Do you want to sit here and be with a girl that you don't care about, or do you want to go after the girl that you do love? So he ends up getting on the horse and going to find Heather, and she's reading a book, and he ends up telling her that he loves her and he wants to be with her, and he's going to break up with Linda because he wants to be with her. She ends up breaking down and crying and saying that, oh, I didn't want to be with I didn't want to be with Jerry. I'm so sorry that happened. You know, I just was so upset and I got drunk and it wasn't supposed to happen. I wish it wasn't you. I wish it was you. So he's like, it's okay, princess, because he calls her princess. They end up making love on the blanket that she was in underneath a tree, and they're like, they want to be together. They make love a few more times, and then Linda comes home and we find out that she was in a car accident herself, but she's okay. She's just in hospital, and Josh and Heather walk into the hospital room where Linda is, and they're holding hands. Linda obviously twigs and realises what's happening. She knows, oh my god, Josh is going to end up telling me that he wants to break up with me because he wants to be that bitch in her head. So she ends up like crying and like playing on acting like, don't leave me Josh, I need you, to try and force him to feel guilty and stay with her. And Heather's like, I can't do this, she's just going to make it so that you stay with her for longer, just so that you won't be able to be with me. And he's like, I can't leave her now, she's just been in an accident, she needs me. So, you know, Heather ends up going on a date with someone else again. Like, we don't get to see it, but we know about it. And Josh is still with Linda. And then it comes to a while later when it's, what's her name? Heather's going to graduate, she's finished all her classes and she's there, and Josh turns up at the graduation, and he tells her that he broke up with Linda and they're officially together and everything's good. And we find out later on when they're dating that they have a fight about something. We don't find out about the fight until later on. He's still in contact with Linda because Linda keeps calling him, obviously still trying to keep her fingers onto him, like trying to hold onto him, but he answers the phone, and Heather and Josh have been fighting about it because she still keeps contacting him, and Heather's basically like, why can't you realise that she's just trying to keep us apart, she wants you, she's just doing it to get out of guilt. And he's like, well, I don't want her to do anything bad to herself, like kill herself or something. And he ends up talking to her on the phone, says some things, he doesn't say anything horrible, but he says some things that would obviously hurt, and of course and then he went out and answered the phone in secret, and Heather's behind him, and they fight about it, and she's basically says the same thing again, why can't you realise she's just trying to get into your head and make you stay with her and go back to her. And Josh is like, I love you, why do you guys keep fighting about it? And he shouts at her, and she leaves. And they're going to one of Josh's mum and dad's like Christmas party, and Heather, Josh's parents show up. He tells his dad what happened, we had a fight because of this, blah blah blah, and even his dad tells him, you know, you need to get rid of that girl, Heather is right. And mum goes off to go and talk to Heather. She tells Josh that Heather has left, and Heather's actually gone off to go and see the gang, and we find out, I think it's Ellie at the time, or was it Ari, I can't remember, what is Ari or Ellie, who their water breaks, so the baby's on the way, so they end up going to like the hospital, and then they bring the baby back. But obviously, and then Josh goes to the party with his parents on his own. Linda shows up and she's all over him, begging for him back, and he doesn't want to. That actually, we don't actually get that detail, if I recall, in this book. It's actually in when Josh tells us what happened when he was going after her, when all this bad stuff happened near the end. So, but I'm going to just, because that's where it should have been, because that's when it happened, and he was going back for Heather to go after her, and then he was an accident, and then Heather gets Jeff gets the phone call and tells Heather, and Heather breaks down, he needs to get to the hospital and needs to go and see him. And when we find out, this is when the next book starts, but I'm going to, because I'm talking about the summary of this. So I've given you the backstory of what happened so far, and now I'm talking about like the summary of this book itself, Faithful, not Faithfully. And she goes there, and she goes to see Josh, and he wakes up, and he doesn't know who Heather is, he's lost his memory, and he thinks that he wakes up and he thinks he's still in college from like 4 years ago, and there's a nurse there, and it's a girl called Victoria, or as Josh calls her, Tori, and it's his ex-girlfriend, but to him, girlfriend who he's actually with in college. So he wakes up thinking he's actually kind of still with Tori, and he doesn't remember Heather, and Heather can't believe that he doesn't know who she is, and the parents tell him that he thinks that he's still with Tori, and she's his nurse, and she wants to get him back. And she goes to the bathroom, and there's Amanda there. That's when we find out Amanda's pregnant with Brad's baby, and Brad's been an asshole. That's when we get all the drama in this actual book. And Tori walks in and actually tells Heather, like, being a bitch, like, he's gonna want to be with me. Do you know, he always said I gave him the best blowjobs, and I bet you won't compare to me or something like that, and Heather's like, I haven't even gave him a blowjob, how is he going to remember me? So Josh has no clue who Heather is. Everyone keeps telling him that they're like in love and stuff, and when the accident happened, Josh's parents tell him that they found an engagement ring in his jacket, and he realises that he wasn't planning on proposing to Heather because Gunter and that knew. So we went to the jewellery shop and helped you pick out the ring because you were going to propose at your parents' family party to Heather, and he doesn't remember anything about her. So that's kind of the summary. So the book's actually like so this book's actually trying to like hoping that Josh will get his memories back and remember Heather, and some bad things happen to Heather that she finds out, and she's not ready to tell Josh, and Josh Tori's all over him. And the actual end of the previous book, which was the second one, Sage, where the couple start up, because this was the epilogue, which turned into the end of the second book, which is Ari's and Jeff's story, was the epilogue, and it became the prologue for the beginning of their actual book for the couple, Josh and Heather itself. And it's where it's obviously time's gone past and Tori's in it. They're at this bonfire, and Heather goes over to like Ari and Ellie and that, and she looks over, Josh is there, he hugs Victoria and kisses her like they're a couple, and he gets down one knee and proposes to her. And then basically in like, this is like it's meant to be in the future basically, and then basically Heather faints, and then the story actually starts where it is. So it kind of makes you believe that somehow Josh is never going to remember her, and he's ended up being Victoria instead and marrying her. I was terrified that wasn't actually happened, and I was thinking about it before I started the book, like this is how it could get to that and get to that. But before we actually, you do get the scene in this book where that actually happens, where he proposes to Victoria. But before it actually happened, like a while when I was getting into the books, when you read the book, you can kind of guess where the book's heading and which direction it's trying to get you to. I soon realised what it actually was, what that scene was, and when it happened, I was like, phew, that's what it was. I realised. So I'm not going to tell you, but so I don't want to give the spoilers. But it was really good. I finished that book. It was brilliant. I loved it. And so basically, this book is just about him trying to remember Heather, trying to give them a try, but he's still got a thing for Tori because she gives him amazing blowjobs, and some stuff does happen between her, and she is always in the way. And we find out that she's not just been with Josh, she's been with some other guy in the gang, and Ellie finds out. That's a hint, and she's not very happy. And then she finds out this comes to Jesse as well in the fourth book, because Jesse and Scott's the couple in this book for the background before their book starts, and Ellie finds out some drama about Jesse, and she's not happy about it. So she finds out some bad news, but she gets over it. So this is when we start that was me about talking about you who Jesse slept with for the first time, and I talked about that in the prologue summary for Cherished. But it's really good. I think you guys should check it out. I won't put the links to the books in the description. I will put it on the spoiler video that I'll be doing later. So thank you guys. This is my summary talking about like the couple Heather and Josh, from like the background story of Sage, which is Ari and Jeff's story, and their actual book themselves, which is Cherished. So I've given you background story and actually the summary of the actual book itself. So thank you guys for watching. This probably I love you guys. Bye, you my VIPs, and bye.